This is Renelle, and welcome to Quality Hang with Rod Brooks and friends. And here he is now, your host, my main man, Rod Brooks.
Thank you very much, Renelle. I am Rod Brooks, and I am joined by friends. As always, I am joined on this broadcasting adventure by my partner in crime, my friend, the co-host of Quality Hang. He is Marcus Osborne, and we welcome in a very special guest and a friend of the show, longtime friend, my good buddy, Mr. Matt Kolsky. He's a part of that Locked On Warriors crew. You can check him out for all good Warriors content, information, and thoughts. It is good to see you, my brother. How you doing?
Hanging in there. Good to see you fellas. Weird week in Warrior Land, but I think we're all happy that the Jonathan Kuminga long national nightmare has finally come to an end.
There's some people who are happy about that. There's some people who are unhappy, not because Kuminga's gone, but because of what they got in return for Jonathan Kuminga. It's a whole thing that we'll get into in just 1 second. But we start the show, as we always do, by thanking our presenting sponsors, the fine folks at Hop Monk Taverns. 3 locations to choose from: Sonoma, Sebastopol, and in Novato. And at all 3 locations, they always do the same great things: fantastic food from a wildly diverse menu, a craft beer selection that is out of this world. And what they do best at Hop Monk, for my money, is what they do as far as live music and live entertainment. At all 3 locations, it's a place where touring acts from around the country stop by to play. But it's, for my money, as I said, I love it because it's a great place for local artists to see and be seen. And it's so crazy diverse, just like the beer selection, just like the menu at Hop Monk. Driving by the Sebastopol location today, all weekend long, coming up in Sebastopol, they're just blowing it out for a big Bob Marley tribute, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Earlier in the week, there was country line dancing. Later on, it's going to be Bob Marley tribute all weekend long. I don't think it gets any more diverse than country line dancing and the Bob Marley tribute, but that's what they do at Hop Monk at all 3 locations. So to see what they have coming up live entertainment-wise, who's stopping by to play, check them out online at hopmonk.com. Definitely follow them on all the socials. Better yet, make sure you check them out live and in person. Enjoy the food, enjoy the beer at Hop Monk. There are 3 locations: Sonoma, Sebastopol, or in Novato. I promise you, you will be satisfied. Fellas, it's been a very interesting week, Matt, as you mentioned, not just for the Warriors, but in Bay Area sports, with Super Bowl happening, and we'll give our Super Bowl picks here a little bit later on in the show. But with the Super Bowl happening in the Bay Area, the Seahawks playing for a championship down at Levi's, so Niner fans are not necessarily happy about that by any stretch of the imagination. And the biggest talking point about the Niners this week is not what they accomplished going 12-5, but they're talking about injuries possibly from that power substation that's next to the practice facility. Everybody's talking about that, like some idiotic thing brought up by this grifter who claims to cover the Niners, but he doesn't even live in the Bay Area. He actually lives in Dallas. This guy just put that bullshit out on the internet, and 2 weeks later, legitimate media outlets are talking about injuries being caused by an electrical substation. So that's happening. The Giants' baseball season is right around the corner, but they seem satisfied and just kind of waiting back, hopefully for the Dodgers dynasty to fall apart, and also for there to be some sort of new salary structure, maybe a salary cap, so the Niners can, or the Giants can finally start paying for guys in free agency. But what has come down, and what is the big thing for the Bay Area right now as far as sports is concerned, is, as Matt mentioned, and while we got Matt in the mix, the Warriors trade deadline, everybody was expecting, and Warrior fans definitely wanting Giannis Antetokounmpo. And I think all Warrior fans, guys, when they got that alert last night of the Warriors making a trade, they thought, here we go. And it must have been like opening up your presents on Christmas and getting socks and underwear, because you see,
I got a rock.
I got coal in my stocking, because you didn't get Giannis Antetokounmpo. You got rid of Jonathan Kuminga, but you got Kristaps Porzingis and not Jonathan Kuminga. It was the dream of Giannis, but it's the reality of Kristaps Porzingis. So we'll let our guests go first, Mark. Matt, what do you think about the Warriors now and the Warriors going forward with Kristaps Porzingis?
His name is almost as complicated as Giannis's, huh? Does that do anything? Does that do anything for you?
He's from Latvia. Giannis is from Greece. They're both European and tall.
Yeah, very true. Look at this. No, I mean, listen. First of all, the Giannis trade was going to be everything you had. You know, it was going to be every first round pick you're allowed to trade, and Moody probably, and Podziemski for sure, and either Draymond or Jimmy Butler. Like, it was going to be everything. This was just Jonathan Kuminga, and I guess you could count Buddy Hield as an asset as well. But fundamentally, this didn't change that. This is essentially adding the gamble of Kristaps Porzingis, which is just a gamble on his health. I mean, I think everybody can recognize a healthy Kristaps Porzingis would be awesome. That would be great. And now I'm not sure there's any reason to expect that. You know, you're looking at it, 59 games combined the last 2 seasons. But if you got the version of Porzingis that you saw down the stretch and in some of the playoffs during Boston's title run, yeah, that guy's a great fit. He's a good 3-point shooter, perfect center to play next to Draymond because he stretches the floor and also protects the rim. Again, the idea of Kristaps Porzingis is excellent. But the reason he's available for Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield is because he's not usually on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
If the Warriors think they can fix that, God bless. But for my money, there was little reason to keep Kuminga at this point. I mean, it seems clear that he was not going to be the thing that made a Giannis trade go.
Right.
So if there's any way you can get back in that in the offseason, I'm sure they will, but it's always going to be about the draft compensation they can offer and not about the young players that are part of the package, right?
And Marcus, it's not only was Kuminga not an attractive enough piece, neither is Draymond, neither is Podziemski,
Right.
And neither is Moses Moody.
Yeah.
None of those guys are attractive enough to make the Milwaukee Bucks go, all right, let's get this deal done. The only guy that's attractive is Steph, and you ain't trading him.
I've said it from a jump. I didn't think the Warriors had enough to give. Like, for me, this whole thing was just kind of a fun pipe dream to talk about. I just didn't think the Warriors had enough to get Giannis. Like, Giannis, you want 4 draft picks and then this bag of crumbs that the Warriors have to offer? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? No.
Well, it's the draft picks, right? I mean, you're right about that.
It's the 4 picks, right?
The question is, do you think that 5 years from now, with a 37-year-old Giannis or whatever he'll be, the Warriors will stink enough for those draft picks to be something really, really valuable? Because what are the Bucks doing? I mean, they certainly don't need a player in their mid or late or post prime. You know, they're tearing this thing down and starting from scratch. So
I mean, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
This is where the Warriors are, man. They've got to be in rebuild mode. Like, you can keep pretending like you're not, but this team is not winning a championship this year. They're not winning one next year. Even
let
with
me ask
Giannis,
you this, Marcus.
They weren't going to win a ring this year or next year.
What does rebuild mean to you for the Warriors? Because that's my question to everybody who says that.
It means let's just let this thing just die on the vine like a normal dynasty does. Like, this is all over. Let Steph play out his last years here if he wants to. Start trading Draymond and start trading these guys on the bench. None of these dudes are frontline starters. Most of these guys are barely rotational players. Let's start moving this stuff out of here. You're going to lose a bunch of games the next couple of years. And if you're smart, you can be like the Thunder, stockpile a bunch of draft picks, get some good draft positioning, and try to build from there.
So it's what the Spurs did. And, after their Duncan run, they stunk out loud. And years later, they end up with Wemby. And they were, tracking well before they got Wemby. Wemby is the piece. And now the Spurs are off and running. The counter to what Marcus is saying in terms of just tear down to the studs and then start to rebuild, the counter to that is when people say Steph even at 37, 38 years old, is still playing at a high level. He's going to the All-Star game, averaging damn near 30 a game. He's going to be NBA first, second, or third team. And you guys know how I feel about all NBA teams. You make one of those 3 teams, you're one of the 15 best basketball players on the planet, full stop. The way that Steph is playing right now, he's one of the 15 best basketball players on the planet, full stop. So what people will say is, you have not, and you should, but you do not seem to be, Joe Lacob and company, you do not seem to be maximizing Steph's value and his ability to play at a high level. And what seems to frustrate a lot of Warrior fans is that he's been playing at this high level for a while. He's clearly older, but he's not fallen off of a cliff. How can you say we don't have a chance? Let's just go ahead and let this thing die and rebuild when you have a guy in Steph who is still playing at a very, very, very high level?
Well, see, to me, Rod, that's not just a philosophical question. It's an actual logistical problem. He's too good. You can't tank. If Steph Curry's playing like this, you can't win less than 35 games. You're not going to be getting a top draft pick. So that's why I asked the question, Marcus, is because in my mind, there are 2 options. One option is you have to trade Steph Curry. I couldn't stomach that if I was the Warriors front office.
No, God, no.
So if from my perspective, the other option is what they're doing. Now, we could go back through the history and talk about mistakes that have been made, and clearly there have been plenty. But as it stands today, tanking, I mean, nothing, like Rod just said, nothing on this roster has value besides Steph. So there's no purpose in trading Draymond Green for nothing. He's not going to get you future assets in return. Moses Moody won't even get you future assets in return in all likelihood. So unless you're trading Steph, I don't see that there's any way to tank. Well, and I don't see any value in moving those other dudes.
I'm not saying lose on purpose. I'm saying play this thing out and let the chips fall where they may, because it's really all you can do at this point. Because the flip side of that is, okay, you keep Steph, but now you've got to deal with Jimmy Butler over here, and the salary cap hell is not going away. The Warriors are on the verge of becoming the thing that they hated most, which is the LA Lakers, where you're in a perpetual mode of trying to get everybody else's free agents and spinning your wheels and doing nothing. You might as well just play this thing out, become shitty, decide whether or not you want to make Steph your version of Kobe Bryant, and let the chips fall where they may, man. Because this team is not winning a title.
Well, but the flip side of that is, whenever Steph's gone, no matter what you do for the last few years of Steph, whenever Steph is gone, it's going to be terrible for an extended period of time.
Which to me is why you try to do everything you
That's
can,
right.
Even if it does seem on its surface as a stopgap measure. Definitely nothing long-term viable in that regard to me, because you do have this asset in Steph that is still playing out at a high level. Then if you have to do the NBA version of chasing your tail, then you got to do the NBA version of chasing your tail. And so that's why, to kind of get back to the Porzingis move, is that if he's healthy, everything you said, Kolsky, at the top of the show, if he's healthy, he's a good basketball player who can absolutely help the Warriors. And to me, it's the move where if he plays enough games and the Warriors get into the playoffs via the play-in, and they take a first-round series to 6 or 7 games, or they win that series, I think expectations inside the organization and outside the organization, they have to be adjusted if they have not been adjusted already. You ain't winning the championship. So right now, what you're just trying to get is just a little bit more good feeling about this thing before Steph is unable, or worst case scenario, unwilling to play for the Warriors and wants to trade, which I don't think is going to happen. And just like we don't think the Warriors have the stomach to trade him. So to me, you're just kind of in this situation where you are looking at dudes like Kristaps Porzingis, or if you get lucky and you get a chance to get a guy like Jimmy Butler, and Matt, you mentioned him, that's a kind of a daunting figure on the horizon because of his age. When does he come back? He's not going to have surgery for another couple of days on that ACL, so you're still talking about at least a year. To me, it all comes back to Steph and what you have to do around him. And because they fucked off those draft picks, because of this whole 2 timelines thing, they didn't do right by him then. You damn sure got to do right by him now. And I'm not saying Kristaps Porzingis is a world beater, but to get you to a point where you're still playing meaningful basketball in late March and in April, and then mid-April past that into the playoffs, I think that's what you have to do for Steph.
I think that's the goal. I think the goal now is don't make Steph wallow in misery for his last few seasons.
It's a goal they have to try and achieve because of how they've screwed it up over the last few years. I mean, this is 100% all on the organization, thinking they're just a little bit too smart. And, I think COVID had something to do with it because James Wiseman just simply didn't play enough basketball in college, and maybe that wouldn't have made a difference. Maybe it would have. But I think COVID had the circumstances had a little something to do with it. I think hubris had something to do with it. I think Draymond has had something to do with it. We could just keep going on and on and on. And Steve Kerr has had a hand in it. We keep going on and on down the list. This is an organizational failure, and I don't think Steph is completely blameless in it either.
Well, it's tough because I think you could say, right, like other superstars have been more willing to put their hand on the scale. But I think you could also say that hasn't always gone well either. So it's like Steph is the one I would hang in on the least. But
That's why I mentioned him last. He's way down at the bottom of the list.
And honestly, although Draymond has to take some responsibility for a couple of obvious specific actions, to me the big failure here. I mean, look, Wiseman was just a bad pick, but like you said, COVID made that really tough. But other than that, it's organizational alignment.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking about this on the internet today. We don't know really what might have happened with Kuminga if things had been different, right? We'll see what happens with him down the road. But what I do know is that purely as an asset for National Basketball Association roster management, they mismanaged that asset about as poorly as they possibly could. And the main culprit for me, I've had a lot to say about Steve Kerr, and I disagree with the decisions he made. But at the end of the day, the guys upstairs are the guys in charge. And they could have traded Kuminga. They could have told Steve Kerr, you're not going to be the coach if you don't play the guy. There are any number of things they could have done to make it make sense. And instead, they chose this path where the front office and certainly ownership liked the guy, so they wouldn't trade him unless they got an explosive package in return. But the coach didn't like the guy, so you couldn't get him on the floor to raise his trade value. And it seemed like every time he was on the verge of breaking through, he either got hurt or benched. So, like, it's been a brutal situation pretty much from the beginning. And I think, if we're looking where the blame ends up falling, it's got to be upstairs because you have to align things. And I can understand not wanting to move on from a talented player, and I can understand not wanting to overrule a Hall of Fame coach. But at a certain point, it's the management's job to make a decision, go with one, and make sure it happens.
Hey, Marcus, the key word in 2 timelines is the word line. Line it up. Have everything going the same direction.
That's a really good point. Like, management should have made a call on this thing 2 years ago. Once you realize that this young man was not a fit for this system, the coach obviously made it clear that he's not a fit, and the player made it clear that I ain't changing the way I play. I don't give a damn about your system. I'm an all-star, and I'm gonna play the way I want to play. That's when you got to go, okay, we'll get this guy out of here. But they didn't. I guess I'm the least upset or annoyed by all this stuff because I'm like, this is just karma. This is the shit that happens with these teams that are great, and what goes up must come down. And for me, it's just the natural cycle of things, and this is the way they all end. They all end that way. And so I'm not really upset by it. I feel like things could have been handled better, but this is the shit that it is. let's just look at the future at this point.
Let me just quickly read through the statement I have up on the screen for the folks who will just enjoy the audio version of tonight's Quality Hang with Rod Brooks and Friends. This is Steve Kerr talking about Jonathan Kuminga and his time with the Warriors. It was a tough situation for everyone, considering how raw he was when he got here. He needed the runway to make more mistakes. He needed the experience of being in the NBA and understanding what it was about. It was tough for him to not be allowed to make those mistakes. And for us as a staff, it was tricky trying to develop him when we were trying to win. I think it's as simple as that. I liked him. He's a really good guy, very personable, just a tough fit. There are people who will read that and it will make their eyes bleed. There are other people who can sort of just take a step back and just understand contextually what's going on and go, that's a very reasonable way of putting it. Jonathan Kuminga, and this is not a good guy or a bad guy situation.
Yeah.
And it's not even, for me, it's not even necessarily a who's right and a who's wrong situation, even though there is a right and wrong dynamic here. To me, it's a square peg in a round hole. You had a young player who was raw, who, when he did kind of figure things out in the NBA, he had his own way of the way that he wanted to do things. The coach, a very successful coach, and a very successful team with a player that plays a certain way, which is ball movement, body movement. And one thing you need to do in this offense is to get the ball to that player, which of course the Jonathan Kuminga was unable to do that. I don't want to use the word unwilling because that makes it sound like that he didn't give a damn, because he did. But he did not, that square peg did not fit in that round hole. And it shouldn't have taken the sort of headbutting from Kuminga and Steve Kerr to go public, and it shouldn't have taken the DMPs and all of that for the front office. If we just want to make it personal, for Joe Lacob to figure out this ain't tenable, this isn't working, we need to cut this off. And the one thing that bad organizations do, and the Warriors not a bad organization, but this is what a bad organization does, is that they will get a draft pick or they will have a player, and because people don't want to look bad in terms of the decision that they made, they keep trying to force the player on the team.
Yep.
And this is the Jonathan Kuminga situation in a nutshell. It wasn't working years ago, but because egos got in the way in the front office, again, just singular personification, ego got in the way with Joe Lacob. He didn't want to say, you know what, let's just cut it, because then that would have made him look bad. He kept forcing it, or at least ignoring what was going on, and it made the situation worse and worse and worse and worse until you got to the point we got to last night where he gets traded for Kristaps Porzingis.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the one whose blood boils. Because, I mean, I love Steve Kerr. But he's full of it, man. I mean, that's a bunch of nonsense. What he said.
You think so?
Yes.
I buy it.
No. First of all, like, there's just, if you look at the way he played, if you look at, yes, he fell in the tank offensively after that first injury this year, but Jonathan Kuminga was clearly trying to do what was asked of him, and it got to a point where
that's why I didn't use the word unwilling, because that paints the picture of he didn't try to do it, or he didn't
Rod,
want
do you know who the best rebounder per 36 was on the Warriors this season?
He was their leading rebounder. Yes.
Yeah, because the coach yelled at him for not rebounding, so he tried. Okay.
But what about the other stuff?
Well, here's what I would say. They got a guy. They talked so much about how the things Kuminga didn't fit. Well, he's not a good enough three-point shooter. He just wants to attack the rim. Then all of a sudden, gosh, we really need a guy who can attack the rim and get to the free throw line. They trade for Jimmy Butler. And now Jimmy Butler becomes the excuse for why Jonathan Kuminga doesn't fit. Oh, well, we can't have him out there. Not enough shooting. Yeah, but he plays Butler's position, and you didn't have him out there before you had Butler. Like,
the reason he wasn't out there before Butler is because he wasn't rebounding and he wasn't defending and he was taking bad mid-range shots.
But we got to be honest about the way Jonathan Kuminga plays.
We have to be honest.
I'm not disputing any of that. What I'm saying is the one thing that Steve Kerr said there that was really true is he needed to be allowed to make mistakes.
Yes.
And Steve Kerr's position of, well, we just couldn't afford that because we were trying to win is a load of crap, because Anthony Lamb played those minutes. Buddy Hield played those minutes. Guys played those minutes and made mistakes all the time.
Yeah,
they just were older dudes making mistakes.
Well,
so
but Pods gets a lot of leeway too, and he's not an older dude.
Okay, so whatever. It doesn't matter if it's an age thing or not. The point is, for whatever reason.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because it's one thing when you make mistakes when you're playing in the system and playing the way I asked. It's another thing when you make mistakes because you're doing what the hell you want to do outside the system. That's a major difference. And Kuminga,
you don't think Buddy Hield ever does things outside the system?
How much was Buddy Hield playing?
He played until it was absolutely impossible to play him anymore because of how poorly he was playing.
He knew he had a certain skill. He was desperate to get the shooting. He tried to let him shoot it. He tried to let him shoot his way out of it.
But why is he desperate? This is the point. Why is he desperate for? No, Marcus. He is desperate to find a way for Buddy Hield to help. He's desperate to find a way for Guy Santos to help. He is desperate to find a way for Pat Spencer to help, but he's not even interested in finding a way for Kuminga to help. Something is weird there.
I think that's a mischaracterization. He has given Jonathan Kuminga plenty of rope. He's given Jonathan plenty of leeway.
Come on, man.
Plenty of leeway. But when you watch him defensively get lost in a team defensive situation. God. You will watch him in a team offensive situation. At times, look at Steph and just continue to dribble the ball. I don't care who you are. If you look at Steph Curry and go, "No, I got this. I got to put you on the bench."
Pods does it every night.
And he need to be on the bench too.
Well, I'm not disputing that.
But this is the Jonathan Kuminga conversation. When Jonathan Kuminga looked at that rebound fall in that series against the Sacramento Kings, when he watched that rebound fall between him and two other Sacramento Kings, that was it. That was it.
I agree. I actually don't even think it was that.
Of allowing him the time to grow, because that was the playoff series that the Warriors, of course, eventually won thanks to Steph. But that was a playoff series where he was given rope, he was given minutes, but it's imperative that they win that game. And all you have to do is go out there and rebound, and you don't do that, then you can't. I give you this opportunity. And then in the biggest moment, you decide you want to watch a rebound fall between you and two other guys of the opposite team.
Well, that's the part where Steve Kerr's right. And that's why, to me, the Kuminga conversation is a different conversation. If he was the guy Steve Kerr wanted him to be and had that athleticism, you'd have gotten multiple first-round picks for the guy. So
he'd be playing every night.
Right.
Well, I'm not sure he would be, but that's a separate conversation. Because again, to me, there's a Jonathan Kuminga conversation about who is that guy going to be as a player, and it's very much open-ended. And there's a separate conversation about what Steve Kerr has tried to sell as the reasons for why it got so bad. And I'm just saying, none of what he says really holds up to scrutiny. Not because Kuminga's great, not because Kuminga is a guaranteed all-star or he was a great rebounder all along. No, I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is all the reasons that keep getting given about why Jonathan Kuminga sort of got, I mean, he was not handled well by the coaching staff, and every reason that's given is a reason you could apply to guys that they gladly played well beyond their usefulness.
Yeah, so, as I said, those guys were making mistakes within the system.
I don't think that's true, though. I don't think Buddy Hield's mistakes. I don't think any of Buddy Hield's mistakes are within the system.
Buddy Hield, this is gonna be really shitty.
Buddy Hield just missed a shit ton of shots. That's within the system.
And he missed defensive rotations, and he dribbled the ball off his foot.
A basketball.
Well, I mean, if we want to talk about turnovers, then that's everybody, including Steph.
And Draymond's the worst defender, right? But I think
absolutely.
And I think that's part of the problem too, is like, how do you expect any of these young guys to develop a care for the basketball when Steph and Draymond are throwing it all over the place? Like,
I don't disagree with that at all. But
so
100%
again, I like most of the criticisms of Kuminga as a player are accurate. I'm just vexed by the way the situation developed, given everything else that has been going on. Because, I mean, if we're honest, other than like the 2 months leading into the playoffs and the playoffs leading to that 2022 championship, no one's had the Warriors in championship contention for any of this period.
Nope.
So the idea that like, well, we couldn't possibly afford to let Kuminga make a mistake. We had to have Anthony Lamb out there so we could compete for a title. That's nonsense. I'm sorry.
Well, but let's be clear. The Warriors themselves thought they were competing for championships. So maybe those of us on the outside didn't feel that way. But if you believe your team is competing for a title, you don't have time to be letting these kids make a bunch of mistakes, because wins are hard to come by.
I don't know. I think sometimes you need to see the forest through the trees, right? Like, especially if you were going to have the 2 timeline plan, you had to give the second timeline some rope. Now, look, it may not have worked out anyway, but just from a philosophical standpoint, like, I again, it's organizational alignment for me.
Well, didn't they think that Steph and Dre and Clay were done? And that was kind of the impetus behind the 2 timeline thing. They thought those guys were going to be out of here by now.
Maybe
they did not expect Steph.
I did know maybe about it. They 100% thought that last championship shot the hell out of them.
But I mean,
was the impetus behind it. And
but other than Steph, they kind of are, right? Like,
Draymond's
still here, but
you're not wrong, Matt.
so I you know, whether or not those guys are physically present, I don't know. Like, if those young players, if they had drafted somebody, if they'd had the first pick in that draft, you know, and it was Ant Edwards here instead of Wiseman, I think 2 timelines would have worked just fine. So
yes.
I saw someone say, I think it was Sam Esfandiari, I want to give credit, but I saw someone say today, like, your plan is only as good as your execution.
Yes.
And I think given the circumstances they were presented with, the 2 timeline plan made sense at a certain level. The execution was not very good.
You know, the thing is that it's an organizational failure to have gotten to this point. And that's what I said before. Everyone's to blame. I think there's different percentages of blame you can assign to different people. But I think when you get to this point, everybody had a hand in it. That's why I rattled off all of those names. You know, again, there was arrogance involved in this. There was hubris.
A lot of it.
There was luck, somewhat good luck, a lot of bad luck. You know, I think that the disease of me, you know, as it is commonly called, you know, that had something to do with it. Father Time, of course, is undefeated. You know, there was some bad behavior, particularly by Draymond, if not completely by Draymond, with the pool punch. You don't get to this point without everyone having something to do.
Fair enough.
With, you know, and again, that's. I mentioned Steph last because he's at the bottom of that list. But Steph and Dre are tighter than a frog's ass. That's watertight. And as they should be. Steph is Steve. Tight like nuts and bolts. As they should be. Steph has a way that he wants to play. Steve has a way that he wants to coach. Steve has an archetype in terms of the players that he wants, particularly guards. And you know, the league has gotten younger, has gotten quicker, faster compared to the Warriors. You know, all of this is happening because of just sort of the natural evolution of things in sports.
Yeah.
And also the fact that there were a lot of people making decisions, and they, to your point, Kolsky, they did not align those decisions. That because you had the front office thinking 2 timelines, understandably so. We got these lotto picks. Yeah, of course you would think the future, but they thought the future at the risk of fucking up the present and messing up the future, as they seem to do. The players looking, if you're Steph, Dre, and Clay, you're looking, going, wait a minute, we just busted our ass getting these championships, these 4 championships, and now you try to maneuver and push us out of the way. Then you got the coach who's a disciple of Lute Olson, who is a disciple of Phil Jackson and Greg Popovich. You can't tell me them 3 coaches are not 3 of the most headstrong coaches to ever walk up and down the sideline. He's got his way of doing things and his way of thinking. You combine all of that, plus other stuff that we don't even know about. You combine all of that, you get to where you are right now, which is the Warriors are in a 67-64 dogfight with the Phoenix Suns in the middle of February.
Yeah, a game that would probably be exactly the same amount of competitive if Steph Curry and Devin Booker were both playing, but instead we get to see a whole lot of Dillon Brooks.
And a lot of Pajemski. But you know what, though? Pat Spencer out there balling tonight.
Yep.
And hey, man, you know what? Pat Spencer to me, he's been a net positive this year.
He's playing his last game as a two-way player.
I mean, this is why I say this is if Pat Spencer is playing is
they've had to use him 40 times.
One of your
already.
guys, then it's a wrap, baby. I like Pat Spencer, but if he's one of the guys who you're going, yeah, he's a gamer and we can win with him, like, nah, it's a wrap.
No one's doing that, are they?
It's a people are like Kurt needs to play Spencer and Guy Santos. That's what I'm like.
You know what?
Are you talking about?
I'll tell you what, Marcus. Yeah. Some people say that about Pat. It's ridiculous. I've been in fights on Locked On Warriors about that situation, but nothing made me more frustrated than his incredible run because I want to enjoy that sort of thing, and it was difficult for me to enjoy it because he's still not that good. Anyway, I gotta say,
he's a gamer,
but I gotta say, Guy Santos. I think I gotta take an L on that. I think this guy's a legitimate NBA rotation player.
Oh, yeah.
He's a rotation player.
But I'm
No
talking
doubt.
about top
No
8
doubt.
on a playoff team. Maybe he's 8, maybe he's 9, but I think that guy can play playoff minutes for you. He doesn't
I
do
don't
dumb
disagree.
stuff. He
I
rebounds
agree.
like hell.
He does all the stuff that keeps you on the court. See,
And he's got a
that's
little more offense than you think.
yeah.
He's a solid player. So I
agree.
He's everything Steve Kerr wanted Jonathan
That's right.
Kuminga to be.
that's
I
right.
agree.
The thing with Steve, really with any coach, but the thing with Steve Kerr is that if you do stuff that makes it hard for him to take you off the floor, he ain't taking you off the floor.
He's a
And
fact.
that's always in a coach's head. Okay. If you rebound, you defend, if you play within the system, if you don't turn the ball, if all the stuff that Guy Santos, like I think he's got 16 points tonight. I just saw the graphic pop up there. If you do all the little stuff that adds up to big stuff, a coach has to be incompetent to take you off the floor. And with Santos, the energy he brings as soon as he steps on the court, and then the actual basketball acumen. And I ain't calling him an all-star, but we just detailed, how good he has become over the course of this season. That if Kuminga were able to do that, the conversation we've been having would not have been a conversation.
No, that's true. But also, I guess I'd say 2 things. Number one, right now the Warriors got about 8 of those guys, and you only need about 3.
Yes.
It is a bad roster but we knew that at the beginning of the year. All right?
Yeah,
if you're talking Warriors and you keep it in the buck, this roster was flawed from the beginning of the year, even with Jimmy Butler.
Yes, but you just can't ignore that a Kuminga who was somehow brought into the fold answers a lot of the questions that this roster has. That was part of what was so frustrating.
He's the guy that has the athleticism.
Yeah,
they have zero athleticism on this team.
Right, and I would argue that most coaches in the NBA, especially the great ones, have found ways to make guys with more talent and less basketball IQ help them. Maybe not start. Maybe not be the X factor, but help them more than 0 minutes per game. And you use the square peg round hole thing, and I get it, and I'm not even denying it, but I do think the job of a coach is to take a knife and whittle the peg. That's the job.
I get that.
But these are people who have to be willing to do what you're asking them to do.
I think he was willing, and I think he struggled, at times with some of what he was being asked, because he was being asked to do things that didn't come naturally.
I 100% think he was willing. He struggled to fight his own basketball demons.
He wanted to be Kobe.
He had the angel and the demon on his shoulder, right? The angel was saying, listen to Steve Kerr, do it, and the devil was saying, you the African Kobe, baby, go out there and get it. Give me the ball, and everybody else go to hell. So he had the basketball angel and devil on each shoulder, and I don't think he was getting very good advice from his peoples. I don't think he was getting very good representation.
Mistakes were made everywhere.
Mistakes were made everywhere. I think the league felt like that they could go at him at times, and hunt him a little bit.
And he was easy to defend. Can we be honest about that? He was easy to defend. Yeah. And if you're going to be Mr. ISO scorer, then you got to make yourself harder to defend than Jonathan Kuminga. That being said, he'll go somewhere. He'll put up 18, 19 points a game, and it'll be, for the Hawks, who pretty much will go nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
This is the best situation for him, is to not be here.
Of course.
Amen.
I would like to see him go to a place that's willing to say, yes, those are things that need to improve, but we're going to give you 30 minutes a night to work on.
And Atlanta's the perfect place to do it because it's the Atlanta Hawks.
Maybe
they ain't winning nothing.
I a quote from I forget if it was Raphael Stone or Ime Udoka, the GM and the coach of the Rockets, respectively. They said, and I'm paraphrasing here, we're not here to develop. We're here to win. And when you are a team that has an expectation to not just get to the playoffs, to go deep in the playoffs, as the Warriors have felt, maybe in a misguided fashion, but as the Warriors have felt over the last couple of years, and definitely as the Rockets feel right now, I understand where a coach is coming from when he's saying, I'm not out here to teach you how to play basketball. Even if you did, even if you come, not from traditional college, and even if you come from the Congo, I'm not here to do that. My job is to win and to put guys out there to help win. And if you're not part of that deal, then you're not going to get any playing time. I'm never going to have a problem with an NBA coach on a good team saying anything of that nature.
I get it. But he's lying because he's developing guys right now. He's got Reed Shepherd out there developing. Amen Thompson's out there developing. Sengun is developing. I'm not saying Kuminga is those guys.
Wait. Yeah, okay, thank you.
I'm not saying Kuminga's those guys. Every single one of those dudes I just mentioned is better than Jonathan Kuminga. But he is developing guys as they win. And you know what? They're struggling to win because of some of that development, and he's still doing it. Reed Shepherd's still out there. Amen Thompson is still getting the opportunity to go one-on-one on offense, even though he doesn't have that much offense.
As a Rockets fan,
that's how you do it.
We could get into a discussion about whether that should be happening because the Rockets offensively are garbage.
Yes, but I would argue that that's going to serve them in the long run, and that's the argument.
From your lips to God's ears, Matt Kolsky.
That's the argument I tried to make 2 years ago about Kuminga. It was too late this year. The time to let him make the mistakes was 2 years ago, and they didn't do it. And that's what the Rockets are doing. That's what they have done last year with Amen Thompson, the year before with Alperen Sengun.
How many years do you continue to let people make the same mistakes?
Well, I this is where I think we just disagree. I don't the idea that like he was given more than ample opportunity, I just simply disagree with. I don't think it's true.
What should the Warriors do now? What's next?
Yeah.
That's really the question that everybody.
Pray that Kristaps Porzingis can get out of bed in the morning without hurting himself on the daily basis.
I mean, they said
focus on winning, trying to.
Yes. Oh, this year? Yeah. See if you can get to the playoffs. See if you can get into the play-in. And
you can't. You're going to tell Steph to sit? What else are you going to
do? This whole idea of shutting Steph down. No, man. Steph.
Well, you're not going to have.
I guess I just don't have much faith and belief in this team. I don't think that they can do much to improve it, to make it better. I think that the salary cap hell they're in, the type of players that they need in order to have a legitimate shot at winning, the type of players they need, they can't get because they can't afford them or they're not available.
What are we talking this year or next year? Because this year or next go all in to see if you can make the playoffs.
Yeah,
and get the playoffs and then see what happens.
Look, man,
going all in mean they need at least two other guys who can be dominant players. They basically need 2 other $40 million players.
Not to make the playoffs.
Yeah, but what's the point of making the playoffs if you know for a fact you're not going? This team is not winning anytime.
But again,
Well, the point is, Steph Curry's not miserable.
This is where our outlooks differ. I mean, it's stupid and cliched. Only one team's going to win a championship. All right, and we know the Warriors are not going to be one of those teams. But I do think that there's intrinsic value in trying to make the playoffs, getting into the playoffs, and then seeing if you can get yourself propelled, seeing if you can take the skin off of somebody. I still think that there is value in that, even if you have no legitimate shot of actually winning a title. Now, beyond that, this summer and beyond, hey man, I don't know.
See, philosophically, I'm with Marcus most of the time. 95% of the time, I'm on that bandwagon of, hey, if you're not competing for a championship, you're wasting your time. Start over. Do it again. Try to compete for a title. When you have one of the 10 greatest players in the history of the sport, to me, it's just the exception to that rule.
Exactly.
Because not compete. If you spend the next 3 years competing for the 5th and 6th seed, and it means you stink for one extra year after Steph Curry leaves, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to see the greatest player in the history of the franchise not play out the string
100%.
in a miserable...
You know what I want this to be this season? I want this to be the NBA version of Steph at Davidson. We all knew that Steph didn't have a snowball's chance in hell of winning an NCAA championship.
Listen.
But him getting to, what was it, the Sweet 16? Give me that.
Maybe
give me that with the
Elite
Warriors
8
this year. I'm fine with that. Was it Elite 8?
That's
Yeah,
fine.
thank you. Yeah, give me that with the Warriors.
I'm not sure.
It's fine if that's the decision that they make. Then everyone has to be okay with going, we're not winning anything. This is just for Steph.
Yeah.
And there can be a lot of bitching and moaning and whining about it. And that's
good luck.
It's going to be all this, oh my God, they don't know what they're doing. They're ruining it for Steph. Like, no, dude, the team is just not good. You can't get the players that you need to win. We're literally doing this just because we have Steph Curry on the team.
You know, Zach Lowe, the for my money, best NBA reporter in the world, has taken to saying everyone wants this happy ending for Steph, and the happy ending was 2022. We just didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was the one. That's the one you don't usually get. That's the extra title that, solidifies him as, I think almost anyone would have him top 20, if not top 15 or 10 in NBA history. 100%. And, honestly, when you take that into account, this dynasty decline has gone better than most dynasty declines do, even if it's been painful at times.
That's a good way to end it. Real quick, brother, before we let you go, you got a Super Bowl prediction for us?
I mean, sure, I'll make a prediction. I wouldn't take it to any of your sports books, but I'm gonna go Pats to win because it seems like the most just depressing and infuriating thing that could happen to my life, which would be par for the course. I mean, look, I'm happy with Caleb Williams, but you're telling me even when the Bears finally have a quarterback, a guy taken behind him is in the Super Bowl first? Come on.
What a great
man.
You know what though? I have no regrets about this.
What a great season.
It was unreal, man. It was undeniably my favorite Bears season of my lifetime. And 85 Bears, I was 4. It doesn't count. So, we had the 2006 Super Bowl. This was so much better than that, man.
Entertainment value wise, you guys were off the chart this year. And
every week I was going, they can't keep winning this way.
And they kept winning that way.
They kept winning that way.
Man, yeah. Just me and my wife on the couch screaming every Sunday. It was a beautiful thing.
At the TV, not at each other.
Right. Most of the time.
Love you, brother. And let's do this again as we get into sort of the basketball only portion of the sports calendar. Tell the folks where they can find you.
Locked On Warriors will be there post game most games, including tonight. So after you finish your quality hang, hop over to Locked On Warriors, and we'll take you into the middle of the night.
Coach does a fantastic job over there. I listen to that show all the time.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
man.
Great job.
My best to the missus. Love you, brother.
Thank
We'll
you.
talk soon.
Appreciate you guys.
No,
Talk
man,
to you soon.
appreciate you. We love you, man. Stay warm. That's our man, Matt Kolsky, part of that Locked On Warriors crew. Let's get into some football here as we continue this.
Can you hear me, Rod?
Edition of Quality Hang. I absolutely can hear you. Can you hear me? Okay, we're good. We're good. Let's get it. The NFL awards, Marcus, have taken place tonight. Myles Garrett, no surprise, Defensive Player of the Year, got all 50 first place votes.
I mean, was there anybody else on that?
No. So he wins that award unsurprisingly and unanimously. The last person to win it was J.J. Watt. Got all 50 first place votes back in 2014. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Tetairoa McMillan of the Carolina Panthers. Christian McCaffrey, Comeback Player of the Year. So good for Christian McCaffrey. Coach of the Year, Mike Vrabel.
Get out of here.
Patriots head coach, Liam Cohen. Jacksonville was second. Mike McDonald, Seattle, third. Ben Johnson, Chicago Bears head coach, fourth. Kyle Shanahan, fifth. In Coach of the Year voting.
F out of here.
He got one. Kyle Shanahan did one first place vote. And that's you know what that is? That is just how we view who is the coach of the year. We view it as who's the person that was the coach of the team that we didn't expect a damn thing from.
Yep.
And they exceeded our non-existent expectations.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Mike Vrabel fits that. Liam Cohen. I'm not saying that these guys are not good coaches because clearly they're good coaches. But Mike Vrabel fits that. Jaguars with Cohen fits that. Johnson and the Bears definitely fit that. The Niners had 6 wins last year. So
that's what I'm saying.
Maybe there wasn't an expectation of the Niners to do anything beyond that. But I just think that all of those coaches were looked at as they were able to do the most with the least. And so Kyle Shanahan was hurt in that regard. Offensive Player of the Year, I think no surprise here, Jackson Smith-Njigba.
Nice.
Must enunciate when you say his last name. I guess maybe I don't have to.
Well, now that he's an Offensive Player of the Year, we got to give him that respect, right?
Absolutely. He had 14 first place votes. Coming in second, Offensive Player of the Year, Christian McCaffrey, with 12 first place votes, and Matthew Stafford, MVP of this recently completed NFL regular season. My guess is, and I'll see if I can look it up here real quick. My guess is that Drake May finished second in MVP voting, but Matt Stafford is the 2025 NFL MVP, and Hall of Fame finalists were released. And you know me, I don't need a museum to tell me that I saw greatness. I don't care about halls of fame and all sports, but this 26 class coming up, it's a really good one. Drew Brees, Larry Fitzgerald, Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri, and long overdue Roger Craig.
It's about time.
The 384th member of the Professional Football Hall of Fame. Again, I don't care personally that Roger Craig made the Hall of Fame, but I'm happy for Roger Craig. He absolutely deserved it.
Yep.
Not just one of the greatest football players of all time, but one of the greatest athletes this country has ever produced. Roger Craig is an incredible track athlete. And to see that go from Nebraska to the NFL, and for him to have the career he had, and for it to be topped off with the Hall of Fame, I am genuinely, and in my bias, yes, knowing Roger just a tiny bit, but I'm genuinely happy for Roger Craig because it meant a lot to him, and it was an award that was long overdue. So that's awesome.
This is a guy who revolutionized the running back position.
Absolutely.
You were not throwing running backs the ball before Roger Craig. You just were
Nope.
not outlet guy or hot read. There were plays designed to get Roger Craig the ball in passing situations. So
Yeah.
the guy deserved it. It's been way too long. I still don't understand. And, I think that he's the perfect example of someone who would probably be forgotten if he didn't get this. Because now people are
That's a
starting
good
to talk
point.
about him again.
That's a good point.
They started to talk about, oh, wait a minute, who was this guy, et cetera, et cetera. And I see Roger Craig highlights all over the place now. They're talking about him again. And for a guy whose career was so impactful and so important to the league and the way teams run offenses, it's good that he's finally getting the recognition he deserves.
You don't have Marshall Faulk.
Mm-mm.
You don't have Roger Craig. Now, Marshall Faulk's still going to come in the league, and he's still, because
Yeah.
Marshall Faulk was a great running back, a great athlete, but the way he was used, you don't have that if not for Roger Craig. You don't. The line from Roger Craig to Christian McCaffrey.
Mm-hmm.
Roger Craig going into the Hall of Fame. Christian McCaffrey, comeback player of the year, second in offensive player of the year voting this year.
Sure.
That line between those two is dead straight. Dead straight. And that's one of the great things about sports. It's one of the great things about football. And you make such a very good point. And I can be very taciturn in my beliefs. I'm very headstrong in terms of I'm just not tripping on Halls of Fame.
Sure.
But you made a very good point, and you made me think that these museums, they're important because not only are you enshrining people who truly are great, okay, without a question, great,
Yep.
but there are people also enshrined in there who were great, but they could also be forgotten about. They could be lost to time. And, you saying that, I guess when we talked on Monday, when you mentioned that, when you brought that up, I was like, that's a damn good point. And that has a little bit softened my stance on the Hall
because
of Fame.
it's fair for you to feel that way because you're not the typical sports fan. Like you know this stuff, you live and breathe it. So to you, it's not a big deal. But for the rest of the public, when they talk about the sport, those players, they don't want to be forgotten. You forget that he was an All-Pro X number of times. You forget that he was Offensive Player of the Year. It's easy to forget. Some basketball was talking about this, Rod. He said, basically, if you're a professional athlete, no matter who you are, you're going to be forgotten.
Yeah.
People are going to take you for granted. People are talking about how Michael Jordan wasn't that good, Rod.
Because there were people who didn't see him. And my whole thing is, I saw him. I witnessed greatness, so I don't need you to tell me that. And you make a very good point. There's not everybody watches or has seen the same amount of sports and the same people that I have seen. So you do need these institutions to remind people or to educate people on players that they didn't see. And there are quite a few people who are walking amongst us who did not see Roger Craig play football. Or what they know about Roger Craig is not how he revolutionized the game, 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving, the first running back to do that. Maybe the only thing they know about Roger Craig is his fumble against the Giants in the NFC Championship game, which is something that happened in his career. But just remembering Roger Craig at his lowest moment in his football career, I'm assuming that's what it was, but just remembering him for that does a great disservice to Roger Craig, the athlete and the human being. So now when you say the name Roger Craig, when you say the name Drew Brees, Luke Kuechly, Adam Vinatieri, Larry Fitzgerald, or the 380 some odd other people in the Hall of Fame, you have to say, but a lot of times when those names are said, the first thing you say before that is Hall of Famer. So
I had forgotten about Luke Kuechly.
Yeah, he's a bad boy.
And
he's
he
a bad
was
boy.
A monster, and he had a short career too. He was a monster.
Yeah, he got cut short by head trauma, by concussions. But yeah, man, Luke and Patrick Willis. It's funny how you kind of watch these things happen. Zach Thomas I'm just talking about linebackers here. Zach Thomas had to go in first, those great years with the Dolphins. Yeah. And then it was Pat's turn. It was Patrick Willis's turn. And then now it's Luke Kuechly's turn. So, it's just, and by the way, because it was a big talking point this week, how nice is it? Because I do think it's nice that these great players, all these guys, unquestionably Hall of Famers. that these great players are going into the Hall of Fame, and Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft have to sit there and eat shit for at least another year. And you know who's going to get into the Hall of Fame next year? Because I don't think he's going to get the you got to wait a year or more treatment. Tom Brady's definitely going to go in next year. And wouldn't it be hilarious if Bill Belichick and Robert Kraft had to eat shit one more year?
Well, it's interesting because they were talking about the voting and the way it's done, which was one of the reasons that those two guys were kind of left off ballots. But apparently the way the voting has changed now, so that this was like Roger Craig's last opportunity. So folks, like, if you had to choose between Roger Craig getting in now or Bill Belichick getting in next year, and folks like, we got to get Roger Craig in.
Got to get Roger Craig in. Yeah.
That's just what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's the voting seems to be unnecessarily convoluted, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of a change. But all of that screaming and yelling and all that bullshit that was going on early in the week about Bill Belichick being blackballed from the Hall of Fame, like, it's save that.
He's
shit.
not blackballed.
Of course not. But you know how there's
good content.
It's good content, but also the what's the best way to put it? There's just going to be a lot of people out there who are just going to look for ways to be aggrieved or look for situations, look for the worst in them, and just seem like, you know what? Shit happens. Deal with it. It's nothing against Bill Belichick, but shit happens. He'll eventually get in. He can cry into his girlfriend's shoulder. Super Bowl predictions, my friend. You want to go first? You want me to go first?
Ooh.
The Patriots are 4.5-point underdogs. That's if you care.
4.5.
4.5 underdogs.
I'm gonna stick with Seattle.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with Seattle. This is a tough one.
It is a tough one. Yeah.
I think Drake May is a better quarterback, but I think Seattle is the better defense and the better overall team.
Yes. Better defense.
Well, I think the skill players are better. The running backs are better. The wide receivers are better at Seattle. I think the difference is the quarterbacking. And what are we going to get from Sam Darnold?
Yes. I try not to be reductive and just make it all about quarterbacks. Yeah. But when the bigger the game, the more important the quarterback, and obviously there's no bigger game than the Super Bowl. And I'll get to those guys in a second. But for me, watching Seattle in Week 18 and then the divisional game against the Niners, and then remembering what happened all the way back in Week 1, the thing about Seattle that impresses me, and this is where the Niners have to do work, is that Seattle is really, really good on both sides of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, man.
Particularly on the interior, particularly on their defensive line. So to me, and the Patriots, very good defense, very good defensive line. So I think both offensive lines are going to be very, very important. Drake May, young guy, first Super Bowl, keeping him comfortable, giving him time. Do they lean on Ramondre Stevenson in that run game to kind of ease Drake May into it? Clearly, the Patriots are going to have to run the ball. You see what the Seahawks can do when they stop your run game, if you're a Niner fan. All right? They take away your run game, you got no shot in the pass game because they will. And if they can play the run with 5 or 6 DBs, and then they're not worried about anything behind you, Seattle just has you in the vice, and they absolutely
ain't missing tackle.
Oh God, no! They are with the Texans. They were the best tackling team in the league. Their DBs are just absolute menaces out there when it comes to tackling. So, if the problem is that the offensive line for the Patriots, particularly at left tackle, Will Campbell, is that's a pressure point for them. So, if the Patriots' offensive line doesn't get overwhelmed and they can run the ball. You saw this with Seattle, and I know the Rams are a particular type of team, but the Niners did this too in Week 1, a long time ago. Is that because Seattle's defense, their DBs, they play man coverage. Yeah, they line that shit up. Let's go. They don't fuck around really with zone at all. if you have guys who can beat man coverage, as the Rams did, even though they lost, but the Rams, obviously they got Nakua and they got Adams and they got, half a dozen tight ends. If you got guys who can beat man coverage, you can get at Seattle's pass defense. And Stephon Diggs, Kayshon Boutte from Louisiana State University, and their tight ends, if they can win in man coverage and the Patriots have any semblance of a run game, which means they're holding their own up front against Seattle's defense, the spread's 4.5. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and I think it's going to be a field goal game. I say all that to then flip on the other side with Seattle. Excellent defense, very good offensive line, very good run game, and now you get to Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's turned the ball over 20 times this season, more than anybody in the league, but he hasn't turned the ball over, hasn't thrown an interception in 2 games here in the playoffs leading up to the Super Bowl. If Sam Darnold goes through this game, Marcus, without a turnover, Seattle wins. And they probably win by 6 points, maybe more. But if Sam Darnold turns into the Sam Darnold, I think a lot of people, myself included, expected for him to turn into in key games in the season, especially in the playoffs. If he turns into it and he has an interception or a fumble or more than that, it's a game the Patriots can win. I just think because of what Seattle has overall, what they have defensively in that matchup, their defensive line against the Patriots' offensive line, if Seattle controls that, Seattle's going to win this game. I do think, though, and I ain't a gambler, but if I were at Patriots 4.5, I like that. I like it a lot. But I'm going to go with the Seahawks just based on the strength of how good they are defensively, how they can control you offensively if they beat you at the line of scrimmage, if they take away your run game and they man you up on the outside, DB to wide receiver. But it could all go haywire if Sam Darnold, to get it to the quarterbacks, it could all go haywire if Sam Darnold shits the bed, for lack of a better way of putting it.
And Drake May hasn't played great the last few games.
He hasn't played great, but he hasn't played terribly, and he hasn't killed them. You know what I mean?
You know what?
He hasn't made massive mistakes that kills him.
The other X factor will probably be the coaching and Mike Vrabel, who's been there several times.
And he's a very good coach. Very good. Situationally, not might be, and why am I qualifying it? He's the best coach in the league. He is, and has been, even when he's at Tennessee, always seems to be 2 steps ahead of the opposing coach.
That's that Belichick coming out.
Oh yeah. He's the one guy from the Belichick tree that's not a complete and total shithead. Because the rest of them from the Belichick tree have all been absolutely awful.
Boo.
I take no great pleasure in saying this, but I'm going to go with the Seahawks. Just the better defense, the line that can control the line of scrimmage, and so I'm going to go with Seattle. So there you go. Do with that information, people, what you will. There you go. How about we do some on this date?
Let's do it.
On this date, we're feeling good. On this date, a lot of Super Bowls on this date. We'll get to that in just 1 second. But on this date, February the 5th, all the way back in 1982. I don't have it, so if you guys are just wait 1 second while I get this graphic up, I promise you the payoff is going to be great because it ties into my choice of shirts. Do I not have it? Well, you know what? I don't have it. All the way back in 1982, Bad Brains dropped their eponymous debut album, and for black dudes from Washington, D.C., revolutionized punk music. Bad Brains dropped their debut album on this date in 1982, by the way. And it wasn't an album, like it wasn't a record. The first Bad Brains album was a cassette.
Didn't they find their music? Somebody discovered their music somewhere? Didn't somebody find their music somewhere?
No. They were big in the DC punk club scene, but they got banned from the clubs in DC because Bad Brain shows would just go off, and that's how. So they moved to New York and got going at CBGBs and the punk clubs there, and that's how the song "Banned in DC" came about because Bad Brains were literally banned in DC. So
there's a great documentary. Have you seen that documentary about them?
I have not.
Oh yeah. I have to find that and I'll shoot it over to you.
I have not, but I will definitely check that out. Oh yeah. No, I'm a big Bad Brains fan. Shout out to HR and Dr. No and Earl and Daryl Jennifer, and got to keep that PMA, got to keep that positive mental attitude because that's what Bad Brains is all about. All right, we will get to the Super Bowls. Had a handful of Super Bowls on this date in 2006. Super Bowl 40 took place between the Steelers and the Seahawks. 21-10 Steelers win that one. That was Mike Tomlin's one and only Super Bowl win. On this date in 2012, Super Bowl 44. The second time the Giants beat the 2-17. And on this date in 2017, we got Super Bowl 49. But it shouldn't even really be known as Super Bowl 49, Marcus. Super Bowl that took place on this date in 2017 should always just be known as 28-3. Super Bowl 49. You can see the Falcons had a 28-3 lead late in the fourth quarter, and then ruh-roh.
This is the most amazing championship comeback I've ever seen. There's no way that this should have happened. And listen, big fan of Kyle, but I definitely believe his play calling cost him that game.
Play calling didn't help. Dante Hightower getting loose and just hitting Matt Ryan in the face didn't help. The Falcons defense, which was led by Dan Quinn, the head coach, the defensive coach. Falcons defense, obviously, clearly didn't help. There was a lot of factors at play, but yes, the narrative of Kyle Shanahan cannot win a big game started on this date, February 5th, 2017, when the Patriots came back from a 28-3 lead late in the third quarter to win 34-28.
I bet you if you had a private conversation with Kyle, he'd probably say, you know what? Yeah, I probably should have run the ball a lot more.
Yeah, got cute. Got cute, 100%.
Yeah, we fall in love with our stuff sometimes.
Yeah, well, coaches are notoriously stubborn, and they are big proponents of I've done it this way all year.
Yeah.
Or this is the way I do it, or this is our style. I'm going to continue to do it no matter what. And it's not just a football thing. I remember Matt Williams in a playoff series against the Giants. I forget the name of the pitcher for the Nationals. Matt Williams was the manager of the time, but he was mowing the Giants down. But he took him out as he got to, I think it was a pitch count situation, or maybe it was, it was, this is how we do it, in terms of bringing a guy in. But the dude was just absolutely just mowing the Giants down and took him out. The Giants came back to win the game. And they asked Matt Williams about it, and he's like, well, that's the way we've done it all year long. So we were not going to change it. And everybody basically said the same thing, which is, man, it's the playoffs. The hell are you talking about? And it's the same situation here.
Did the same thing with the Dodgers.
100%. Yeah. So I would think that Kyle Shanahan, yes, if you got him behind closed doors and maybe you got a couple of tequilas in him, he'd say, yeah, I got a little too cute. I got a little too cute. Then again, you know what? Maybe he wouldn't. Who knows? So there you go. On this date, the Great Bad Brains released their debut album in 1882. Super Bowl 40 took place in 2006. Super Bowl 44 in 2012. And Super Bowl 49, the 28-3 comeback by the Patriots to beat the Falcons happened in 2017. We wrap up every show, if you're new to Quality Hang, with the best thing that I have seen today. It's something that I ran across on the internets. That's the best thing I've seen today. And I show it to you in hopes that it's the best thing that you will have seen today. Joe Montana was wrangled by a couple of Marcus unscrupulous people who some way somehow got a Dallas Cowboys helmet into Joe Montana's hands.
Oh,
Exactly, right? Exactly. I mean, these two clearly were up to no good because I don't know how you come to San Francisco. How do we allow this to happen, by the way? Let me wait before I show you this.
I don't even know.
How do we in the Bay, in San Francisco, allow a couple of jokers to come up to St. Joe, the great Joe Montana, who will prove why he's the greatest of all time in this video? How do we let two clowns come up to Joe Montana and give him a Cowboys helmet to hold? How do we allow that to go down? Somebody should have synced that. And yes, I said synced, S-E-E-N-T. Want me to give you the definition? Is when you see something, when you synced it. All right. How does somebody sync that and allow that to happen? You should have seen them dudes trying to come up to Joe with the Cowboys helmet. You should have slapped the helmet out their hands and then slapped the taste out their mouth.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. We're getting soft, all right, as a people. Anyway, I digress. Anyway, so these two clowns come up to Joe and put a Cowboys helmet in his hand. And what does Joe Montana do? He proves to you why he was known as Joe Cool. And he proves to you why he's the greatest of all time. And this is the best thing I've seen today.
Oh, no, he's not. He's not. This is real good. You might want to plug your ears in. Here we go.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, what happened? Oh, come on. You killed me. Where's the payoff?
This is real good. You might want to plug your ears in. Here we go.
Oh, it skipped. All that set up for what?
Why is it skipping?
I don't know. Here it is.
Cowboy curse.
Oh, no, he's not. He's not. This is real good. You might want to plug your ears in. Here we go.
Got me trash can, dude.
Yeah!
There we go.
There you go. With the shit-eating grin on his face. Let's get it back to the beginning.
Have you been able to catch any of the AMC Rise of the 49ers doc yet?
I have not, but it is on my list of things to watch.
There is.
Joe's like, oh, okay, you got me. You got me. You guys are there. He's like, no, wait a minute. He's scrambling. He's looking around like he's looking for Dwight Clark in the end zone. And what does he do? Finds the nearest receptacle, drop it. With a smile on his face. There you go. That's why he's the greatest of all time.
Joe was also a very good shit talker. Like, that's also an underrated aspect of his game.
Yeah.
Very good shit talk. You heard the story about when the Niners beat the Cowboys in the catch game. Ed Too-Tall Jones had been talking a bunch of shit.
Oh, when he gave him the double guns, when he gave him the finger points.
Yeah, and then at the end of the game, he went up to Joe. He said, "So, man, how does it feel? You just beat America's team." And Joe said, "Well, you can go ahead and watch the game with the Super Bowl with the rest of America." Guilty.
I mean,
guilty.
That's why he's the greatest.
Guilty.
It is shit talking if you can back it up.
I can't wait for you to see it. Let me know when you do, man.
Absolutely.
So much stuff to talk about.
Oh, man.
Like, who has the record for touchdowns this season? It's not LaDainian Tomlinson. It's somebody has 24 touchdowns. Because they broke the record set by Jerry Rice. But I guess my point is Jerry Rice set the touchdown record at like 23.
Mm-hmm. LaDainian Tomlinson, 31.
In 12 games.
Yeah.
23 touchdowns in 12 games.
Yeah, when everybody knew he was going to get the ball. And that's back when you could just beat up dudes coming off the line of scrimmage. And it was definitely back in the day when you could, if you got a beat on somebody, you could bore a hole through them by hitting them.
Mashing. And they were on strike. That was a strike year.
That's right. That's right.
And so he only played 12 games, 23 touchdowns in 12 games.
Imagine if he played 17 games in today's football where you can't touch anybody, and you definitely there is going across the middle. You are a protected species. Imagine what he would do today. And Jerry Rice is finally going to get a statue. So glad that wrong is going to be righted. Yeah. And now
Montana doesn't have one, does he?
Well, no, Montana's got one, and Montana's got one on the stadium grounds because we used to do the pregame show right by the Montana statue. For some strange reason, Steve Young's statue is on the other side of the street next to a parking garage. Go figure. So the Niners got a lot of things to figure out. None of them have to do with an electrical substation, but get the statue thing figured out. Not only gets Jerry's statue online, but let's get Steve's statue across the street and actually near the stadium and get it away from the parking garage. So there you go. All right, everybody, there it is. Another edition of Quality Hang for your eyeballs and ears. As always, before we get out of here, we thank our presenting sponsor, the fine folks at Hop Monk Taverns, 3 locations to choose from: Sonoma, Sebastopol, and in Novato. And we also thank our friend and our special guest, Mr. Matt Kolsky. He of the Locked On Warriors crew.
He is great on that show, so check him out.
Great. Absolutely great. And we will have Matt on as we get deeper into the basketball only portion of the sports calendar. All right, my brother, let's talk on Monday and have our Super Bowl special recap show. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right, everybody, thank you very much for joining us. We will see you on Monday. Have yourselves a fantastic weekend. And as always, be good and be good at it. We'll see you.